The baby shower was picture perfect. Pink balloons, champagne glasses clinking, soft laughter filling the elegant hall. Then Andrew Rivera made his announcement. "There's someone special I'd like you all to meet," he said, his voice dripping with mockery as he gestured toward the entrance. "My ex-wife, Janice Franklin, the woman who couldn't give me children." The guests gasped as Janice appeared in the doorway, dressed in a sleek black suit with a pearl necklace, her head held impossibly high. She wasn't alone. 3 identical toddlers in matching pink suspenders walked beside her, hand in hand, each one carrying his eyes, his dimples, his exact smile. "Say hello to your sons," she said, her voice steady as steel. The room erupted into chaos. What Andrew didn't know was that his cruel invitation had just become his public humiliation and the beginning of the family he thought he'd lost forever. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel and let's get started. "I want to invite Janice to the baby shower," Andrew Rivera said, smirking as he scrolled through his phone. "I want her to see everything she couldn't give me." His mother, Elena Rivera, looked up from her tea, eyes sharp with warning. "Janice? Your ex-wife? That's cruel, Andrew. Leave that woman alone." It was a warm Saturday afternoon in their family home in Westchester County, New York. Andrew sat in the sunlit living room where he'd grown up, surrounded by photos of his childhood. On the coffee table lay glossy invitations for his and Cassandra's baby shower, scheduled for next month at the Plaza Grand Ballroom. Cassandra, his fiancée, sat beside him, her hand resting protectively on her pregnant belly. "Why not?" Andrew asked, leaning back with a satisfied grin. "It's the perfect opportunity to show her what a real family looks like." Elena set her teacup down hard enough to make it clink. "It's been 3 years since your divorce. Why do you still need to hurt her?" Andrew looked down at the guest list on his tablet. Cassandra shifted uncomfortably beside him, but said nothing. "Because she wasted 10 years of my life," Andrew said coldly. 10 years waiting for something that was never going to happen. Cassandra gave me what Janice never could in less than a year." Elena's jaw tightened. "Andrew Miguel Rivera, that woman went through hell trying to give you a child. What you're doing is justice." Andrew interrupted. "She needs to see that I've moved on, that I'm happy, that I got my perfect family without her." He typed Janice's name into the guest list and hit send before anyone could stop him. What Andrew didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that across town, in a modest but beautifully decorated apartment, Janice Franklin was celebrating her triplets' 3rd birthday. 3 identical boys with curly hair and mischievous smiles were tearing into presents while her sister captured every moment on camera. And when Andrew's invitation arrived in her inbox 3 days later with the message, "Come see what a real family looks like," Janice didn't cry. She didn't break down. She didn't even flinch. She simply looked at the photo of her 3 sons on her phone, smiled slowly, and whispered to herself, "Time to finish this." But before Janice arrived at that baby shower with 3 sons Andrew never knew existed, we need to go back to where the storm truly began, 10 years earlier. Janice Franklin had never felt more hopeful than the day she married Andrew Rivera. She was 26, fresh out of graduate school with a marketing degree, and madly in love. Andrew was 28, ambitious, charming, and already climbing the corporate ladder at a prestigious investment firm. They'd met at a mutual friend's party, and from the moment their eyes locked, Janice had known he was the one. Their wedding was small, but beautiful, held in a garden overlooking the Hudson River. Janice wore a simple white dress. Andrew couldn't stop smiling. When they exchanged vows, he promised her forever. A home, a family, a life full of love. She believed every word. The first year of marriage was blissful. They moved into a cozy 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn. Janice landed a job at a boutique agency, Andrew got promoted. On weekends, they'd walk through Central Park and talk about baby names. Andrew wanted a son. Janice didn't care. She just wanted to be a mother. "We'll have 3 kids," Andrew said one Sunday afternoon, his hand resting on her stomach. "Maybe 4. I want a big family." Janice smiled. "Then let's start trying." So they did. And nothing happened. Month after month, the pregnancy tests came back negative. Janice tried not to panic. She read articles, tracked her cycle obsessively, changed her diet. Andrew assured her it was normal. "It takes time," he'd say. "Don't stress." But after the first year of trying, the hope began to fade. After 2 years, they saw a fertility specialist. The appointments became routine: blood tests, ultrasounds, hormone injections that left Janice bruised and exhausted. The doctors ran every test imaginable. Andrew's results came back perfect. Janice's were complicated: low ovarian reserve, irregular cycles. The doctor used words like challenging and unlikely without intervention. Andrew's face hardened when he heard the news. "So it's you," he said flatly in the car ride home. Janice's chest tightened. "Andrew, it's not anyone's fault. But it's your body that's the problem." The words cut deeper than any scalpel. From that moment, everything changed. Andrew's family was worse. His mother, Elena, had always been polite, but distant. Now she became cold. At family dinners, she'd make pointed comments. "Cassandra from church just had twins. Such a blessing. My friend's daughter is expecting again. Her 3rd. Some women are just made for motherhood." Andrew's aunt whispered the word barren at Thanksgiving. His cousin called Janice empty at Christmas. Andrew never defended her. He just sat there, silent, chewing his food. At home, he became cruel in ways that didn't leave bruises. "You know, my coworker's wife got pregnant on the first try," he'd say casually while scrolling through his phone. "She's already showing. Sarah from my office is expecting. She's younger than you. Guess some women just work. Maybe if you'd taken better care of yourself." Each comment was a tiny knife, but Janice swallowed the pain. She still loved him. She believed they could fix this. When the doctor suggested IVF, Janice felt a surge of hope. "It's expensive," the doctor warned, "around $15,000 per cycle. But given your situation, it's your best option." Janice looked at Andrew, hopeful. He shook his head. "That's too much money to gamble on something that might not even work. Andrew, this is our chance. I'm not throwing away 15 grand because your body can't do what it's supposed to do naturally." Janice felt something break inside her that day, but she didn't give up. She took a second job, freelancing at night after her 9 to 5. She saved every dollar. She researched clinics. She found one that offered payment plans. And without telling Andrew, she started the IVF process alone. The injections, the appointments, the egg retrieval. She did it all in secret, hiding the bruises under long sleeves, scheduling appointments during lunch breaks. The embryo transfer was scheduled for a Tuesday in March. That Monday, Andrew served her with divorce papers. He didn't even have the decency to do it himself. A courier knocked on the door while Janice was making dinner. She opened the envelope with trembling hands. "Petitioner seeks dissolution of marriage on grounds of irreconcilable differences." Andrew came home an hour later. No apology, no explanation. "I can't do this anymore, Janice," he said, his voice flat. "I want a family. You can't give me that. So we're done." "Andrew, please. I've already moved my things out. My lawyer will be in touch." He walked out the door and didn't look back. Janice collapsed on the kitchen floor and sobbed until her throat was raw. The next morning, she went to the clinic for her embryo transfer. She almost canceled. What was the point? But something inside her, some stubborn, unbreakable part, refused to quit. The procedure took 20 minutes, 3 embryos. The doctor said it was unlikely all three would take. "We'll know in 2 weeks," he said gently. Janice nodded numbly. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. Cold, clinical, humiliating. Andrew's lawyer painted her as desperate and unstable. She got nothing. No alimony, no assets. Just the apartment lease and a shattered heart. She spent the next 2 weeks in a fog. Her sister, Monica, moved in temporarily, forcing her to eat, to shower, to keep living. Then one morning, Janice woke up nauseous. She took a pregnancy test, hands shaking so badly she almost dropped it. 2 pink lines. She took 3 more tests, all positive. At the doctor's office, the ultrasound tech went quiet. Then she smiled. "Congratulations," she said softly. "You're pregnant. With triplets." Janice stared at the screen. 3 tiny flickers of life, and for the first time in months, she smiled. Andrew had left her with nothing, but she was about to have everything. Janice didn't make it out of the clinic before her legs gave out. She collapsed onto a bench in the parking lot, the ultrasound photos clutched in her trembling hands. 3 tiny shapes, 3 heartbeats, 3 lives growing inside her. "Triplets," she whispered, the word feeling impossible on her tongue. She should have been terrified. She was freshly divorced, barely employed, and emotionally shattered. But as she stared at those grainy black and white images, something shifted inside her chest. This wasn't a tragedy. This was a miracle. Her sister Monica picked her up 20 minutes later. When Janice showed her the ultrasound, Monica screamed so loud that people in the parking lot turned to stare. "3?" Janice, "Oh my God. 3?" Janice nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know how I'm going to do this, Monica." Monica grabbed her hands. "You're not doing it alone. You're moving in with me. Today." And she did. Monica's apartment in Queens was small but warm. She cleared out her guest room, bought prenatal vitamins in bulk, and cooked every meal Janice couldn't stomach. When Janice cried at night, mourning her marriage, terrified of the future, Monica held her and reminded her she was stronger than she knew. "Does Andrew know?" Monica asked one evening. Janice shook her head. "No, and he doesn't need to." He walked away. "These babies are mine." It was a vow she made to herself. She would raise them alone. Andrew had made his choice. He didn't deserve to know unless absolutely necessary. But pregnancy with triplets was nothing like she'd imagined. At 12 weeks, she was hospitalized for severe dehydration. At 20 weeks, early contractions sent her to bed rest. At 24 weeks, her blood pressure spiked dangerously. Every doctor's visit came with warnings. Multiples are high risk. Preterm labor is likely. Complications are common. Janice spent sleepless nights Googling survival rates, crying into her pillow, praying to a God she wasn't sure was listening. But she pushed through. Every injection, every appointment, every terrifying symptom. At 32 weeks, her water broke. The delivery was chaos. 3 operating rooms on standby. A team of neonatal specialists. Janice, exhausted and terrified, squeezing Monica's hand so hard she thought it might break. The first boy came out crying. 2 pounds, 11 ounces. The second was silent for 3 agonizing seconds before letting out a wail. 2 pounds, 9 ounces. The third was the smallest. 2 pounds, 6 ounces. But his cry was the loudest. "They're fighters," the doctor said, smiling beneath her surgical mask. "Just like their mama." Janice named them that night in the NICU, her hands pressed against their tiny incubators. Elijah, Isaiah, Micah, her 3 miracles. They spent 6 weeks in the hospital. Janice barely left their side. She learned to change diapers the size of her palm, to feed them through tubes, to hold her breath every time a monitor beeped. And then, finally, they came home. It was during those exhausting early months, surviving on 2 hours of sleep, drowning in diapers and formula, that Janice saw the Instagram post. Andrew, smiling, his arm wrapped around a tall, blonde woman with perfect teeth. The caption read, Finally found a real woman. Blessed new beginnings. Janice stared at the screen, her chest tightening. The comments were worse. She's gorgeous. You deserve this, bro. Upgrade for sure. Monica found her sitting on the floor, tears streaming down her face, 3 sleeping babies in bassinets around her. Don't look at his page, Monica said gently, taking the phone away. But Janice shook her head. No, I needed to see that. She wiped her tears, looked at her sons, and made another vow. She would rise. Not for Andrew, not to prove anything to him, but for herself, for them. The next morning, Janice started her consulting business. She used her marketing background to help small businesses build their online presence. She worked during naps, during midnight feedings, during every spare moment. Her first client paid her $500. Her second paid $1,000. By the boy's first birthday, she had 15 clients and a waiting list. By their second birthday, she'd hired 2 contractors and moved into a bigger apartment, one with a room for each boy. And by their third birthday, she bought the car. A white luxury sedan, leather seats, sunroof. The exact car Andrew had promised her when they were married, but never delivered. Janice stood in the dealership parking lot, keys in hand, and smiled. The boy's third birthday party was small, but perfect. Monica decorated the apartment with balloons. A few close friends came over. The triplets wore matching outfits, tiny button-downs and suspenders, and smashed cake into their faces while everyone laughed. Janice watched them, her heart so full it ached. Elijah, the cautious one, carefully picking off his frosting. Isaiah, the wild one, already plotting how to climb the bookshelf. Micah, the gentle one, offering his sister a bite of cake. They were healthy, happy, loved, and Janice, for the first time in years, felt whole. That night, after the guests left and the boys were asleep, Janice sat on her balcony with a glass of wine. She looked at the city lights stretching out before her and thought about how far she'd come. From broken to unbreakable. From empty to overflowing. From nothing to everything. She didn't need Andrew's approval. She didn't need his apology. She had already won. But just when Janice thought she'd finally left Andrew in the past, an invitation arrived that would change everything. Drop a comment and tell me, would you have told Andrew about the triplets, or kept it secret like Janice did? Hit subscribe. You won't want to miss what happens next. 3 weeks after the boys' birthday party, Andrew Rivera's engagement announcement appeared on Janice's Instagram feed. She hadn't looked at his profile in over a year. The algorithm, however, had other plans. There he was, down on one knee in front of the Bethesda fountain in Central Park. The blonde woman from his previous posts, Cassandra, had her hands over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. The ring sparkled in the sunlight. The caption read, she said, "Yes, can't wait to build our forever." Engaged. Future wife, my queen. Janice scrolled past without a second thought. That chapter of her life was closed. She had her sons, her business, her peace. Andrew's happiness, or performance of it, meant nothing to her anymore. But 2 months later, another post appeared. Cassandra, glowing in a white sundress, holding an ultrasound photo. Andrew behind her, his hands cradling her still flat stomach. Both of them beaming. Baby girl on the way. Our family is complete. Baby Rivera, in true daddy's girl. Blessed Janice stared at the screen for a moment longer than she intended. She felt nothing. No jealousy. No anger. Just a vague sense of irony. Good for them, she muttered, closing the app. Monica, sitting across from her at the kitchen table, raised an eyebrow. You okay? I'm fine, really. And she was. What Janice didn't know was that across town, Andrew was planning something far more sinister than a social media announcement. Andrew sat in his corner office at Peachtree Financial, scrolling through Pinterest boards filled with baby shower themes. Pink, gold, elegant, extravagant. It needs to be perfect, he told his assistant, Claire, who stood by his desk with a tablet. I want everyone talking about it. Spare no expense. Claire nodded, typing notes. The Plaza Grand Ballroom is available next month. We can do a custom cake, floral arrangements, a champagne tower. Book it. All of it. Andrew leaned back in his leather chair, a satisfied smile playing on his lips. This baby shower wasn't just about celebrating his daughter. It was about showing the world, and himself, that he'd finally gotten everything right. That night, as Cassandra slept beside him, Andrew scrolled through his phone. He opened his contacts and stopped at a name he hadn't thought about in years. Janice Franklin. His finger hovered over the delete button. Then, on impulse, he opened his email and began typing. Subject: You're invited. Janice, Cassandra, and I are expecting a baby girl, and we're celebrating with a shower at the Plaza Grand Ballroom next month. I know we haven't spoken in years, but I thought you might like to attend. Come see what a real family looks like. Andrew. He hit send before he could second-guess himself. His best friend, Marcus, who was lounging on the couch with a beer, looked up. Did you just do what I think you did? Andrew smirked. She needs closure. This will help her move on, or it'll blow up in your face. She won't even come. But if she does, she'll see I'm happy. That I moved on. That I got what I wanted without her. Marcus shook his head. Man, you really haven't changed. Andrew shrugged. Why should I? I won. The email arrived on a Saturday morning. Janice was sitting on her living room floor, surrounded by toy cars and action figures. Elijah was building a tower with blocks. Isaiah was trying to steal his brother's toys. Micah was curled up beside her, flipping through a picture book. Her phone chimed. She glanced at the screen absently, expecting a work email or a message from Monica. Instead, she saw Andrew's name. Her stomach tightened. She hadn't heard from him in over 3 years. Not since the divorce papers. Not a single call, text, or email. She opened it. Come see what a real family looks like. Janice read the line 3 times. Each time something shifted inside her. Not sadness, not anger, clarity. She looked around her living room, at the framed photos on the wall, her and the boys at the park, at the beach, blowing out birthday candles, at the toys scattered across the floor, at her 3 beautiful sons, healthy and happy, playing without a care in the world. And then she looked at the photo on her phone, the one she'd taken that morning. All 3 boys in matching pajamas, their smiles wide, their arms wrapped around each other. A real family. Janice set her phone down slowly. Isaiah toddled over and climbed into her lap. Mama? Play. She kissed the top of his curly head. In a minute, baby. She picked up her phone again and stared at Andrew's email. Her finger hovered over the delete button. Then, instead, she opened her calendar. She looked at the date of the baby shower. She was free. Janice opened her closet on her phone and scrolled through photos until she found the one she'd been saving. A tailored black suit she'd bought for a client meeting, but never worn. Elegant, powerful, perfect. She looked at her sons again, at their identical faces, at Andrew's eyes staring back at her from 3 different angles. And for the first time in 3 years, Janice smiled, a slow, deliberate smile that reached her eyes. She picked up her phone and typed a single word in response to Andrew's invitation. Attending. She hit send. Then she leaned back against the couch, pulled Micah closer, and whispered to herself, so softly that only she could hear, Time to finish this. Would you have responded to that email? Drop a comment and let me know. Don't forget to subscribe. Chapter 5 is where Janice prepares for war, and you do not want to miss it. The moment Janice hit send, something shifted in the air. Monica noticed it first. She'd stopped by the next morning with bagels and found Janice sitting at her laptop. a notepad covered in meticulous plans beside her. "What are you doing?" Monica asked, setting down the bag. Janice looked up, her eyes sharp and focused. "I need a stylist. Someone who can make me look untouchable. And a photographer." Monica's eyes widened. "Wait, you're actually going to that baby shower?" "I'm not just going. I'm making an entrance." Janice turned her laptop screen around. On it was a photo of a tailored black suit. Sharp lines, fitted waist, powerful. "I'm wearing this!" Monica gasped. "Oh my God! Janice! And the boys are coming with me." Monica's hand flew to her mouth. "You're going to tell him." "I'm going to show him." Within the hour, Monica had called their younger sister, Keisha. Within 2 hours, all 3 women were in Janice's living room, planning like generals preparing for battle. "We need to rehearse," Keisha said, clapping her hands together. "The boys need to walk in together, holding hands, synchronized." Janice booked an appointment with the best stylist in Brooklyn. She found a photographer who specialized in family portraits, and every evening for the next 3 weeks, the sisters gathered in Janice's apartment to practice. "Okay, boys," Monica said, kneeling in front of the triplets. "Hold hands like this. Now walk forward, nice and slow." Elijah, Isaiah, and Micah toddled forward, giggling and stumbling. "Again," Keisha said, laughing. "We need this perfect." By the 3rd week, the boys could walk in a straight line, hands clasped, without breaking formation. They wore matching outfits, tiny white shirts, pink suspenders, and bow ties that made them look like miniature gentlemen. "They're going to lose their minds," Monica whispered, watching them practice. Janice smiled. "That's the point." Meanwhile, across town, Andrew was having the time of his life. He sat in his usual booth at O'Malley's bar, surrounded by his college friends, a whiskey in hand. The conversation had turned to the baby shower. "So you actually invited your ex-wife?" his friend Derek asked, laughing. "Man, that's cold." Andrew grinned. "She needed to see it. To understand that I moved on. That I'm happy." "What if she actually shows up?" another friend asked. "Then she shows up and realizes she lost." Andrew took a sip of his drink. "Honestly, I hope she comes. I want her to see Cassandra, to see my daughter on the way, to see everything she couldn't give me." Marcus, sitting quietly at the end of the table, shook his head. "You're playing with fire, man." Andrew waved him off. "Janice is harmless. She's probably still bitter and alone. This might actually give her closure." At home, Cassandra wasn't so sure. She sat on the couch in their upscale apartment, her hand resting on her growing belly, scrolling through her phone. Andrew walked in, still buzzing from his night out. "Did Janice respond to the invitation?" she asked quietly. "Yeah, she's coming." Cassandra looked up, her face tight with concern. "Andrew, I don't think this is a good idea." "Why not?" "Because it's cruel. You don't invite your ex-wife to your baby shower just to rub it in her face. What if she causes a scene?" Andrew laughed. "Janice? She won't do anything. She's too broken for that." "You don't know that. You haven't spoken to her in 3 years." "Exactly. She's moved on, or she hasn't. Either way, it doesn't matter." Cassandra bit her lip, anxiety flickering across her face. "I just have a bad feeling about this." Andrew kissed her forehead. "Stop worrying. Everything's going to be perfect." The next afternoon, Andrew's mother, Elena, stopped by for tea. She sat across from Cassandra in the living room, her sharp eyes studying her future daughter-in-law. "How are you feeling, Misha?" "Tired. Nervous about the shower." "Nervous? Why?" Cassandra hesitated. "Andrew invited Janice, his ex-wife." Elena's teacup froze halfway to her lips. She set it down slowly, her expression darkening. "He did what?" "He thought it would be, I don't know, closure, or something." Elena stood abruptly. "Where is he?" "In his office." Elena marched down the hall and threw open the door without knocking. Andrew looked up from his laptop, startled. Mama, tell me you didn't invite that woman to your baby shower. Andrew sighed. It's not a big deal. It's a huge deal. Elena's voice was sharp. Leave that woman alone, Andrew. You humiliated her. You divorced her when she needed you most. And now you want to parade your new life in front of her. She's fine. She's moved on. You don't know that. And even if she has, what you're doing is cruel. Elena stepped closer, her voice dropping. Life humbles us all, mijo. Be careful. You don't know what storms you're calling down on yourself. Andrew looked away. It's already done. She's coming. Elena shook her head slowly. Then God help you. 3 days before the baby shower, a package arrived at Andrew's office. Claire brought it in, eyebrows raised. This just came for you. No return address. Andrew frowned and opened the box. Inside were 3 small outfits, baby boy clothes, white onesies with pink accents. Each one folded carefully in individual pink gift bags. No note, no explanation. Andrew stared at them. A strange chill creeping up his spine. Who would send you baby boy clothes? Claire asked. You're having a girl. I don't know, Andrew muttered. He shoved the box into his desk drawer and tried to shake off the uneasy feeling settling in his chest. Across town, Janice stood in front of her full-length mirror, the black suit fitting her like armor. Her hair was styled perfectly, her makeup flawless, her pearl necklace glinting in the light. Behind her, the triplets stood in their matching outfits, holding hands, their little faces serious and focused. Monica snapped a photo. You look like you're about to take over the world. Janice smiled, a slow, dangerous smile. Not the world, she said softly. Just one man's. She picked up her phone and double-checked the baby shower details one more time. Attending. His stage is set. The trap is ready. What do you think is in those pink gift bags? Drop your theories below and subscribe, because Chapter 6 is the calm before the storm, and Chapter 7, pure chaos. The Plaza Grand ballroom looked like something out of a dream. Pink and white balloon arches framed the entrance, cascading from the ceiling in elegant spirals. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, casting soft light across tables draped in blush satin. Centerpieces of roses and peonies sat beside gold-rimmed champagne flutes. A dessert table stretched along one wall. Macarons, cupcakes, and a towering 5-tier cake, topped with a tiny sugar baby in pink. Soft music played through hidden speakers. The air smelled of fresh flowers and expensive perfume. Nearly 200 guests filled the room. Family, friends, colleagues. Society wives in designer dresses. They mingled, laughed, sipped champagne, and admired the elaborate decor. Everything was perfect. Almost. Have you seen her yet? Whispered one woman in a coral dress, leaning toward her friend. Who? The ex-wife. Yes, I heard Andrew actually invited her. Can you imagine? That's insane. Why would she even come? Pride, maybe, or to cause a scene. I heard she couldn't have children. Poor thing. This must be torture for her. The whisper spread like wildfire. Clusters of guests huddled together, stealing glances toward the entrance, their voices low and buzzing with anticipation. Do you think she'll actually show up? I don't know, but this is better than reality TV. Andrew's bold for this. I'll give him that. At the center of it all stood Cassandra Rivera, to be, glowing in a flowing pink gown that accentuated her round belly. Her hair was styled in loose waves. Her makeup was soft and radiant. She looked every bit the perfect mother-to-be, but her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. She stood beside Andrew, greeting guests, accepting congratulations, posing for photos. But every few minutes, her gaze drifted toward the entrance. Her hand kept finding her stomach, rubbing it nervously. Are you okay? Her maid of honor, Tiffany, asked quietly. Cassandra forced a smile. I'm fine. Just tired. You don't look fine. You look like you're about to throw up. Cassandra lowered her voice. I don't think she's going to come. But if she does. If she does, what? She'll see you're pregnant and leave. It's not that deep. But Cassandra's stomach twisted. Something felt wrong. She couldn't explain it. But the air felt heavy, like the moment before a thunderstorm. Andrew, on the other hand, was buzzing with confidence. He moved through the crowd like a king, shaking hands, accepting congratulations, his smile wide and self-assured. He wore a tailored navy suit, his hair perfectly styled, his posture radiating success. But every few minutes, his eyes flicked toward the entrance. Is she really coming? He'd checked his email 3 times that morning. Attending. The single word stared back at him like a challenge. Part of him hoped she wouldn't show. It would be easier that way. But another part, the part that still carried a grudge, wanted her to walk through those doors. Wanted her to see him, happy, successful, moving forward without her. He rehearsed his speech in his head for the 100th time. There's someone special I'd like you all to meet. My ex-wife, Janice. The woman who couldn't give me children. He'd pause. Let it sink in. Let the room gasp. Let Janice feel the weight of what she'd lost. Then he'd introduce Cassandra. His future. His real family. It was perfect. Poetic, even. You look nervous, his best friend Marcus said, appearing at his elbow with 2 glasses of champagne. I'm not nervous. You've checked the door 5 times in the last 10 minutes. Andrew took the glass and downed half of it. I'm just curious if she'll actually show. Marcus shook his head. Man, I still think this is a bad idea. It's fine. Everything's under control. But even as he said it, Andrew felt a flicker of something he didn't want to name. Doubt. Unease. He thought about the package. The baby boy clothes in pink gift bags. No return address. He'd shoved it out of his mind. But now, standing in this room full of people, the memory crept back. Who would send that? And why? Across the room, Elena Rivera sat at a table near the back, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes closed. She wasn't sleeping. She was praying. Please, God, don't let my son's pride destroy him today. Whatever is about to happen, let it be a lesson, not a catastrophe. Her husband, Roberto, sat beside her, his hand resting on hers. You okay, mi amor? Elena opened her eyes. No, I have a terrible feeling. About the ex-wife. About everything. She looked toward Andrew, who was laughing with a group of colleagues, champagne in hand. He thinks he's won, but life doesn't work that way. You don't kick people when they're down and walk away unscathed. Roberto squeezed her hand. Maybe she won't come. Elena shook her head slowly. Oh, she's coming. I can feel it. The minutes ticked by. Guests continued to arrive. The champagne flowed. The photographer captured smiling faces. The DJ played soft, celebratory music. But the tension in the room grew thicker. People kept glancing at the entrance. Whispers grew louder. Is she here yet? I don't see her. Maybe she chickened out. Or maybe she's making an entrance. Andrew checked his watch. The shower had officially started 20 minutes ago. Most of the guests had arrived. Maybe she wasn't coming after all. He felt a strange mix of relief and disappointment. Cassandra tugged his sleeve. Can we start? I want to sit down. Yeah, Andrew said, clearing his throat. Let me make the welcome speech. He stepped toward the microphone at the front of the room. The DJ lowered the music. Guests turned their attention toward him, champagne glasses in hand. Andrew took a breath, his practiced words ready on his tongue. Thank you all for being here today. And then, the double doors of the entrance swung open. Every head in the room turned. The music seemed to stop. The air went still. and in the doorway stood Janice Franklin. Oh, it's about to go down. What do you think happens next? Comment below and smash that subscribe button. Chapter 7 is the explosion you've been waiting for. And in the doorway stood Janice Franklin. The room went silent. She looked nothing like the broken woman Andrew remembered. Her black suit was tailored to perfection, hugging her frame like armor. A strand of pearls gleamed against her collarbone. Her hair was styled in sleek waves. Her makeup was flawless. Her heels clicked against the marble floor as she stepped forward. But it was her eyes that caught everyone's attention. They weren't sad. They weren't angry. They were calculating. Andrew's practiced smile faltered. His hand tightened around the microphone. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. Then Andrew recovered, his smirk returning. Sharper, crueler. He lifted the microphone to his lips. Well, well, he said, his voice carrying across the silent ballroom. Everyone, I'd like you to meet someone very special. My ex-wife, Janice Franklin. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Heads turned. Phones were slowly pulled from purses. Andrew's smile widened. The woman who couldn't give me children. The words hung in the air like poison. Cassandra's hand flew to her mouth. Elena closed her eyes, her worst fears confirmed. Marcus muttered a curse under his breath. But Janice didn't flinch. She didn't look away. She simply stood there, her chin raised, her expression calm. Then, slowly, deliberately, she smiled. Are you sure about that, Andrew? She asked, her voice steady and clear. Andrew blinked. What? Janice tilted her head. Are you sure I couldn't give you children? Confusion flickered across his face. What are you talking about? Janice turned toward the open doorway. And that's when the room exploded. 3 identical toddlers stepped through the entrance, hand in hand in perfect formation. They wore crisp white shirts, pink suspenders that matched the decor, and tiny bow ties. Their curly hair bounced with each step. Their chubby cheeks glowed under the chandelier light. And their eyes, those unmistakable brown eyes with flecks of gold, were Andrew Rivera's exact eyes. The ballroom erupted into chaos, screams, gasps, shouts of disbelief. Oh my God, are those? No way, look at them! Phones shot up into the air, cameras flashed, guests surged forward, craning their necks to see. Andrew stumbled backward, the microphone slipping from his hand and hitting the floor with a loud thud. His face drained of all color, his mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Cassandra let out a choked sob, her hands flying to her face. No, she whispered. No, no, no. Janice walked forward slowly, the 3 boys following her like little soldiers. She stopped directly in front of Andrew, who stood frozen, trembling, his eyes wide with shock. Say hello to your sons, Janice said, her voice soft but carrying through the silent room. No, Andrew whispered, shaking his head violently. No, this can't be. Oh, but it is, Janice said calmly. The guests were in full frenzy now. Some were recording, others were crying. A few were laughing in sheer disbelief. The room was a cacophony of noise, shock, scandal, chaos. Elena Rivera pushed through the crowd, tears streaming down her face. She dropped to her knees in front of the triplets, her hands reaching out to cup their small faces. My grandsons, she whispered, her voice breaking. My beautiful grandsons. Elijah blinked up at her curiously. Isaiah grabbed her hand. Micah smiled. Janice looked down at Elena and said softly, Say hello to Grandma. Boys. Elena sobbed and pulled them into her arms, holding them like she'd been waiting 3 years to do exactly that. Andrew finally found his voice. This is impossible. You couldn't. I couldn't. Janice's voice was ice. Or you wouldn't pay for the procedure that could have saved our marriage. Andrew's face went pale, You want proof? Janice reached into her purse and pulled out a sealed envelope. She held it up for everyone to see. DNA results 99.99% match. Dated 2 months ago. She tossed it onto the table in front of him. Andrew stared at the envelope like it was a live grenade. Open it! Someone in the crowd shouted. Yeah, open it! Cassandra backed away, her hands still covering her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Her maid of honor rushed to her side, but Cassandra shook her off, stumbling toward the exit. Cassandra, wait! Andrew reached for her, but she was gone, disappearing through a side door. The crowd pressed closer. Cameras were everywhere now. This was going viral, and everyone knew it. Open the envelope, Andrew! Someone yelled. Let's see it! Andrew's hands trembled as he picked up the envelope. His fingers fumbled with the seal. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His breathing was ragged. Finally, he tore it open. He pulled out the paper. Official letterhead. Lab results. Clear as day. Probability of paternity. 99.999%. 3 names listed. 3 matches. 3 sons. Andrew's knees buckled. He grabbed the edge of the table to steady himself, the paper slipping from his fingers and fluttering to the floor. A guest picked it up and read it aloud. Elijah Rivera, Isaiah Rivera, Micah Rivera. 99.99% probability of paternity. The room erupted again, louder this time. Andrew looked up at Janice, his face a mask of shock, denial, and devastation. How? He whispered. How is this possible? Janice leaned in close, her voice low enough that only he could hear. The week you served me divorce papers, I had my final embryo transfer. All 3 embryos took. And you, she smiled coldly, you walked away before you could ever know. She straightened, picked up Micah, and turned toward the exit. Enjoy your baby shower, Andrew, she said over her shoulder. I hope it's everything you imagined. And with that, Janice Franklin walked out of the ballroom, head high, sons in tow, leaving behind a room full of chaos, a broken man, and a scandal that would be talked about for years. Drop a comment. Did Andrew deserve this? And what do you think happens next? Hit that subscribe button because Chapter 8 is the aftermath. And trust me, it gets messy. Probability of paternity, 99.9990%. The words stared back at Andrew from the paper on the floor, mocking him with their clinical certainty. Elijah Rivera, Isaiah Rivera, Micah Rivera, his sons. Andrew's legs gave out. He sank into the nearest chair, his head in his hands, his breathing ragged and uneven. Around him, the ballroom buzzed with chaos. Voices shouting, cameras flashing, guests whispering in shock and disbelief. This can't be real, he muttered, his voice barely audible. This can't be happening. Marcus crouched beside him, gripping his shoulder. Andrew, man, you need to get up. You need to. It's not possible. Andrew's voice cracked as he looked up, his eyes wild. She couldn't. The doctors said she was. The test doesn't lie, Marcus said quietly. Those are your kids. Andrew shook his head violently, denial and devastation warring on his face. No, she's lying. She had to have. Andrew. Marcus's voice was firm. Look at them. They have your eyes, your face. Stop. But Andrew couldn't stop. His mind raced, trying to make sense of the impossible. How? When? Why didn't she tell him? And then the final, crushing realization. She tried, and I left her. Across the ballroom, Cassandra stood frozen near the side entrance, her maid of honor, Tiffany, trying desperately to calm her down. Cassandra, breathe. I can't, Cassandra sobbed, her hands shaking. I can't do this. He has 3 sons. 3. And he didn't know. How could he not know? He didn't. Because he abandoned her. Cassandra's voice rose, drawing more stares. He left her when she needed him most. And now, her voice broke. Now, I'm supposed to marry him? Raise my daughter with a man who did that. Tiffany grabbed her hands. You don't have to decide anything right now. But Cassandra pulled away, tears streaming down her face. She looked across the room at Andrew, still slumped in the chair, looking like a man who'd just lost everything. And she made her decision. I won't raise a liar's child, she said, her voice cold and final. She tore the engagement ring from her finger and dropped it onto the dessert table. Then, without another word, she walked out of the Plaza Grand Ballroom and out of Andrew Rivera's life. Elena Rivera had seen enough. She stood slowly, releasing the triplets who were now being fawned over by several guests. She turned toward her son, her face a mixture of heartbreak and fury. Mama, Andrew started, but she held up a hand. No. Her voice cut through the noise like a blade. You don't get to speak right now. The remaining guests went quiet, sensing the storm about to break. Elena walked toward Andrew, her heels clicking sharply against the marble. She stood over him, her eyes blazing. I warned you, she said, her voice shaking with emotion. I told you to leave that woman alone. I told you that life humbles us all. But you... Her voice broke. You were too proud, too cruel, too blind. Mama, I didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't care. Elena's voice rose. That woman went through hell, trying to give you a child. She fought for your marriage while you compared her to other women. She begged you to help pay for the procedure that could have saved everything. And what did you do? Andrew's head dropped. You divorced her. Elena continued, tears streaming down her face. You humiliated her. You invited her here today to mock her. And now... She gestured toward the empty doorway where Janice had exited. Now you've lost everything. Your fiancé, your reputation, and 3 years with your sons. She leaned down, her voice dropping to a fierce whisper. You did this to yourself, mijo, and I am ashamed of you. She turned and walked away, leaving Andrew sitting alone in a room full of strangers who were no longer celebrating. They were witnessing the collapse of a man who thought he was untouchable. The venue manager appeared within minutes, his face tight with professional concern. Mr. Rivera, I'm afraid we're going to have to shut down the event early. This has become disruptive. Andrew barely heard him. He nodded numbly. The guests began to file out, still filming, still whispering. The DJ packed up his equipment. The catering staff cleared tables. The beautiful pink ballroom that had been perfect an hour ago now felt like a crime scene. Within 2 hours, the video was online. Within 4, it was trending. Within 6, it had been viewed over 2 million times. The headlines wrote themselves, Man invites ex-wife to baby shower to mock her, gets exposed as father of her triplets. Viral baby shower disaster. The revenge story. Everyone's talking about. He said she couldn't give him children. She walked in with 3. Andrew's phone exploded with notifications. Texts from colleagues, calls from his boss, emails from friends asking if it was real. His social media mentions were in the thousands, most of them condemning him. His carefully curated image, the successful investment banker, the devoted fiancé, the good guy moving on, crumbled in real time. 3 days later, Andrew showed up at Janice's apartment. He looked like he hadn't slept. His hair was disheveled. His eyes were red-rimmed. His suit was wrinkled. Janice opened the door but didn't invite him in. What do you want, Andrew? His voice cracked. I need to talk to you, please. There's nothing to talk about. Janice, please. He took a step forward. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. If you'd known. What? Janice's voice was calm, steady. You would have stayed. You would have been kind. You wouldn't have humiliated me at every family dinner. You wouldn't have compared me to other women? Andrew flinched. I was wrong. I know I was wrong. But please, let me meet them. Let me be their father. I'll do anything. Anything. Janice tilted her head. Where was anything when I was going through IVF alone? Where was anything when I begged you not to leave? I made a mistake. You made a choice, Janice corrected, and now you have to live with it. Please, Andrew whispered, tears streaming down his face. Don't take my sons away from me. Janice looked at him for a long moment. Then she stepped back and closed the door. You did that yourself, she said through the wood, and she walked away. Wow. Do you think Janice was too harsh? Or did Andrew get exactly what he deserved? Drop your thoughts below. And subscribe for Chapter 9, the final chapter where we see where everyone ends up. You won't want to miss it. Janice closed the door and leaned against it, listening to Andrew's footsteps fade down the hallway. She didn't feel victorious. She didn't feel angry. She felt peaceful. Behind her, 3 little voices called out, Mama! Mama, come play! She turned to see Elijah, Isaiah, and Micah building a tower with blocks in the living room, their faces lit with innocent joy. They had no idea what had just happened. No idea their father had been begging at the door. No idea that their existence had caused a scandal that had rocked an entire social circle. And Janice would keep it that way for as long as she could. She walked over and sat down with them, pulling Micah into her lap. What are we building? A castle, Isaiah announced proudly. For the princes, Elijah added, placing another block carefully on top. Janice smiled. For the princes. The weeks that followed were strange. Andrew tried everything. He sent flowers. Janice donated them to a hospital. He sent letters. She left them unopened. He showed up at her apartment twice more. She didn't answer the door. He called. She blocked his number. His mother, Elena, however, was a different story. Elena called, respectful and tearful, asking if she could meet her grandsons properly. Janice agreed. They met at a park on a Saturday morning. Elena brought gifts, toy cars, picture books, a photo album she'd started for them. She cried when she held them. She apologized on behalf of her son. She didn't make excuses. I raised him better than this, Elena said quietly, watching the boys play on the swings. I don't know where I went wrong. You didn't go wrong, Janice said gently. Andrew made his own choices. Elena nodded, wiping her tears. Will you let me see them again? Of course. They deserve to know their grandmother. And so, slowly, carefully, Janice built a new version of family. One that didn't include Andrew, but didn't exclude his mother, who had tried to warn him and now carried the weight of his mistakes. Meanwhile, Andrew's life continued to unravel. Cassandra never returned his calls. The engagement was over. The baby girl he'd been so excited to meet would grow up knowing he was her father, but also knowing what kind of man he'd been. At work, colleagues whispered. Some were sympathetic, most weren't. His reputation as the confident, successful banker was now overshadowed by the viral video of his public humiliation. His boss called him into the office. Andrew, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Your personal life is affecting the firm's image. Several clients have expressed concerns. Andrew nodded numbly. I understand. Take some time off. Figure things out. When you're ready to come back, we'll talk. But Andrew didn't know how to figure anything out. He'd spent 3 years building a life without Janice, convinced he'd made the right choice, convinced she'd been the problem. Now, sitting alone in his apartment, scrolling through photos of the triplets that had been posted online, he saw the truth clearly for the first time. He hadn't lost Janice because she couldn't give him children. He'd lost her because of who he'd become. The cruel comments, the comparisons, the abandonment, the pride. It had all been him. 6 weeks after the baby shower, Andrew received an email from Janice's lawyer. It was formal, clinical, and clear. Supervised visitation rights. 1 hour per week. At a neutral location. With conditions. Andrew called Janice immediately. She answered this time. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you for letting me see them. This isn't for you, Janice said quietly. It's for them. They deserve to know their father. But Andrew... Her tone hardened. You show up on time. You treat them with respect. You don't make promises you can't keep. And you never, ever speak badly about me in front of them. I won't. I promise. Good. Because if you hurt them the way you hurt me, these visits will stop. Do you understand? I understand. The first visit was awkward. Andrew sat in a family center playroom, supervised by a social worker, watching his 3 sons play with toys. They were cautious around him at first. This stranger, who looked like them but wasn't Mama. But slowly, they warmed up. Isaiah showed him a toy truck. Elijah let him help with the puzzle. Micah climbed into his lap and fell asleep. And Andrew, proud, stubborn Andrew, cried. I'm sorry, he whispered to them, even though they didn't understand. I'm so sorry. When the hour ended, Janice arrived to pick them up. Andrew stood, wiping his eyes. Can I talk to you for a minute? He asked. Janice hesitated, then nodded. She walked with him to the hallway while the boys gathered their things. I know I don't deserve another chance, Andrew said quietly. I know what I did was unforgivable. But Janice, his voice broke. I need you to know that I see it now. I see what I lost. I see who I was. And I'm sorry for everything. Janice looked at him for a long moment. Her expression was unreadable. Do you know what the hardest part was? She asked softly. Andrew shook his head. It wasn't the infertility. It wasn't even the divorce. She paused. It was watching the man I loved turn into someone I didn't recognize. Someone cruel. Someone who made me feel worthless. Andrew's face crumpled. I'm sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't give me back those years. It doesn't undo the damage. I know. But maybe we could... No. Janice's voice was firm. There is no we, Andrew. There's you, working on becoming a better father. And there's me, protecting my sons and my peace. Andrew nodded, tears streaming down his face. Can I have one more chance? To prove I've changed? Janice looked him directly in the eyes. These children weren't your punishment, Andrew, she said quietly. Losing us was. The words hit him like a physical blow. Janice turned and walked back into the playroom. She gathered her sons, kissed their heads, and led them toward the exit. Andrew watched them go, his 3 perfect boys, and the woman who had been strong enough to survive him. As the door closed behind them, Janice felt the weight she'd been carrying for years finally lift from her shoulders. She was free. She had her children, her business, her dignity, her peace, and Andrew Rivera, the man who had once made her feel small and broken, had no power over her anymore. She walked out into the sunlight, her boy's hand in hers, and smiled. Victory had never felt so quiet, or so complete. The end. So, what did you think? Did Janice handle it perfectly, or would you have done something different? Drop your final thoughts in the comments. And if you love this story, subscribe and hit the notification bell because we have more revenge stories coming your way. Thanks for watching, and remember, karma always keeps receipts. See you in the next one.